everybody. My name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we are starting something very new today. So I put a poll out about a week or so ago at the time of me recording this of I want to take a look at some cover artists. So people who their primary role on their channel that they have on YouTube is to cover K-pop choreo. And I put a poll out with some soloists like versions and some groups, and this was the group that won the poll, and they're pretty established. They definitely have a huge following, which is great to see. And the reason why I wanted to actually approach this is for two reasons. Firstly, I don't see a lot of reactors or analysts like myself tackle the actual K-pop cover artists and analyze how they do the choreography. Normally, it's just the dance practice. Like myself, I normally just look at the dance practices, and this is the first time I'm actually analyzing a group choreo, which is super fun. And then secondly, what I do as actually part of my job outside of YouTube is I do work with students. I am an educator. I do teach weekly at multiple studios where I live. Not only that, I am in charge of a couple of competition programs where they go and they compete at conventions in the second semester, typically or the beginning of the year. And part of the job description of being in charge of competition routines is the job of cleaning. So cleaning is very similar to how I analyze content, is how I clean routines back at home. So they tend to be a little bit cleaner, hopefully, from when we start from where we finish, because we do it every week on a lot of choreos. And but what's really fun about this is that I get to actually try to simulate what I do in my actual life on YouTube here with helping or taking a look at a cover group. And the whole point of this is not to criticize, and it's not to put down whatsoever. It's quite the opposite. I want to actually be helpful, not just for fans who appreciate and admire the artists in which these choreographies stem from, but I also want to be helpful or help provide suggestion or ways to help groups like this who may not really receive this type of feedback very often, because it's something that I've learned the more elite or the more viral or out there or establish a group or choreographers or things of that are, it's really hard to find people that can understand the movement quality that's being presented and be able to provide something constructive. And so that's why I wanted to kind of just try this and see if I can actually be helpful, not only to them, but to you guys who also like them, which I think is super cool. So we're taking a look at Pirate King. The reason why I picked this one is because I want to only look at covers that I have done a full analysis on from the original choreography. I think that's going to be a little bit better for me to refine my phrasing versus going off of assumptions. At this point in time, I've seen every single ATEEZ music video and dance practice, as well as most of their B-sides. I've seen a lot of ATEEZ, so I'm very familiar with their movement quality, especially during the era where Pirate King came out, their debut. I know a lot of their chronic things they were experiencing, so I am very much looking forward to seeing what this is going to look like. And I also know, because this is 3 years old at the time of me recording it, I'm going to be looking at it from a 2024 lens, not a 2020, 2021 lens here. So I do understand that as well, and I do know they're probably much better than they are in this video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a watch. You know what? I forgot to mention this. I did the course of this choreo as well. So I'm very familiar with how the course is supposed to feel, and woo! Let's go. Here we go. Okay. They're doing a very good job on the performance, because doing ATEEZ, it's not just doing the choreo, you have to give the essence of the performance too, and that's a lot harder. Here we go. Hey! Nice. Okay. Okay. So they had somebody holding the camera to help with the keyframing, so they don't even have to do it. So that's, the choreo is technically over. I guess my question is, are they're like all done? Okay. Oh, and then the second one is mirrored. So the first one's the original, the second is mirrored. I'm assuming it's the same thing. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So initial thoughts with this, I did a pretty freaking good job with it. It's a situation where, like I had mentioned while we were watching it together, that you have to be very mindful of not just the choreography you're given. You have to see, how does ATEEZ present it? Because that's part of the selling point, is ATEEZ is extroverted. I called it the puppy energy of the rookies, where they were just there's so much energy there, where my chronic thing I gave them was, they needed to really be mindful of refining the power so we can appreciate the integrity of the choreo itself. So that was my overall note. They did a pretty good job holding it down, probably about in sync as, you know, ATEEZ was, which was not, it really wasn't bad at all. And let me also go through this. I don't know if I had already said it already, but when I look at how I'm going to be looking at these cover artists, because they're not going to be the only one I look at, I'm going to look at how they're cohesive together. I'm not just going to be doing a direct comparison to ATEEZ. If I was going to do that, then I would have a side-by-side. But I'm not doing it that way. I want to look at just, how does this group meld together to the choreography? Do they make the choreography their own? Because that's one of your goals, I would say, as a cover artist, that can make you so captivating, as it looks like it's your own choreography, not you're covering someone else's stuff. Does that kind of make sense? And so that's why I feel that I'm going to kind of take that approach, and looking through how they as individual members can work together to make the choreography look good on them collectively. So going from the top, I own those pants. Shout out to that. Love it. So the energy here, we're setting it up, building it away and pressing it away. It's really nice having your one person be super defined. I will say we're already slightly off on the spacing, because if you see here, it's very clear that we have people, right? But it feels like our guy over here is a little too far over because he's hiding behind our guy in front, and our guy here is fine. So my note here is my guy that's right here. We need to scoot over just a smidge so we can properly frame it out and we can clearly see everybody, no problem. From here, ranching it up, everybody looking away, which is really nice. This boom, boom, that boom, boom, using the chest to help initiate that. Great choice. Is ideally how the choreo is supposed to be ran there. That da-da-da-da. Notice though, with that section in particular, hold on. I keep missing it. Hold on. Some people are choosing to throw. They're not using their back at all whenever they throw those arms. Yes, it is fast, but using the back is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of energy whenever you choose to throw anything, and you want to have power behind it, that do 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 do, and it didn't feel quite as clear either on where we were supposed to go with it. Was it unison? Was it supposed to be a canon? Was it supposed to be a ripple? Things like that. That's right here. Boom, boom. Some people are choosing to pick up the feet and some are choosing to use the upper body. So my note for this is just be very clear where your energy is originating from and stick to it and make sure that it matches well. In isolation, if he was doing this and everybody else was kind of doing the same thing, it would be fine. But a lot of them are choosing to go with the chest. And so I think the chest would match very well here because you have everybody interlinked in some way, shape, or form. So having the chest is going to keep the integrity of the schema of the formation that you want to keep. From here, they come up, bring it through, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, which I really like. That little, love the energy presentation here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know some of them, he is tall, but it's still, here's the thing. Regardless if you're tall or short, you're held to the same level of expectation in your performance quality, in your groove, and in your pocket. Because people are not going to be nice to you about it. You know, does that kind of make sense? They're not going to be like, oh, they're tall, so it's fine. I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. I'm just saying that we can already tell that he's definitely more stiffer on the execution in his torso as he does this beginning section of the choreo. Yes, it's in sync, but the range of how they're executing it is just slightly off. So that would be just my overall note for that. Bringing it through, having more range in the back of the shoulders to create this swivel or this visual would be nice. That was very clear. I love this voom and a whoom. I love that. The transition is really nice here in this regard. The spacing's just slightly off right here. They need to kind of make it to where it's even all the way across. When you do a circular transition, we're going to be looking at your spacing as you transition around. We can still see him. We see him because of the level, not because of the space and the gap in the formation. So that's just something you need to keep in mind when you do more of a circular formation. Yeah, because now when you look, because that spacing is off, he's supposed to be center, but he doesn't look center anymore because he's too close in or he's too far out. So that's my in general note for that too. Having his own moment right here. Right there, boom, really nice. I do feel like he could have stepped out a little bit more clearly, boom, to let it happen, but we could still see him very clearly anyway. So that was just more of a preference thing than I needed to do thing. And I love that everybody is dropped down all the way a little bit lower. Super great to see. Now this right here, this is supposed to be a little bit more isolated. And the reason why I say that specifically is because I did talk about that with ATEEZ that I appreciated was that this was a really interesting head ISO variant that they were doing. And we just don't see it here. You can see that the head is kind of going with the body and the goal is to keep it fixed pointed, meaning that it's still and everything else moves. So it looks like an illusion that it's completely disconnected from your head. Yeah, so it's very subtle from some of them, and then some are kind of carrying the head over. He needs to bend over just a little bit more. I know it's hard with height, but just to make it very clear. It's interesting that he's dancing in socks. Shout out to that. That is interesting that we're going for it that way. Peeling it around, boom, boom, boom. Really nice, very clear that we can see that. Great. I love that. Boom, boom. Love that. The build, they do a good job building with the chest. Yep, and that boom, boom. I love that too, with the reverb there. We could, I think, no, that part's fine, this part's fine. Go! Honestly, this part looks totally fine. That right there is super clean. I would say notice with his foot place, you could tell he's a little bit off on his weight, so he's trying to counterbalance it right there, so that would just be my note for him. Everyone's doing a good job framing to the outside. They get a clap for me for that. This looks great. I love the level distribution on this a lot. So that could be a little bit cleaner, especially in this midsection right here. Very clear what's happening here, but it was a bit muddled here, but then it cleared right back out right there. Could be just a timing thing that ATEEZ did too. There's a good chance I may have noted that about them. But I would say out of all the debuts, ATEEZ's debut was surprisingly astronomically impressive for the choreography that they were given during the era in which they were given it. And 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, let's go. They come out right here, this part right here. This is a bit, notice that we have some of our placement. Everyone needs to be facing the front on this. He's twisted a little bit too much. Can you be my friend? That needs to be so subtle. Like, you be my friend. You shouldn't have your body match with that. It's just your head there. It's right here. Okay, some of our guys, he killed it. He did a good job. This situation right here, boom. and then it goes out, out, drop, drop, click, 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 click. I know this because I just learned it and I am still sore from doing this freaking choreo because it's all pa, 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 pa. It's just, it's fun, but you got to be on top of it on the ISOs. 2, 3, let's go. Can you be my friend? And boom. Yep. I think he needed to. He centered more of his legs more so than his chest. So it's the whole body, not just the legs that do this part. Click, 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 click. Yep. Right here, notice that that second arm didn't quite shoot it over to the side before we started the clarity of this next section with the head. Doom. That part's totally fine. I would say one of them dropped it a little bit too much. They need to really pull and create that opposition between the two. So the swings, bringing that through. I love that. Swinging it down. Boom. Also, it feels like boom. It's supposed to be very subtle, like a poking out, but it feels like they put a lot of energy into that. So I would say tone it back a little bit. Boom, doom, ch. It's supposed to be nice and subtle, like a breath and tension of energy. Also, the formation is slightly off or a bit more spaced out here than on this side. So that'd be my note. I do like this side because you're able to see everybody a little bit better, but here that's just a spacing thing that I would want them to refine and be mindful of. Yeah, that boom, boom, dun, dun, dun. Normally it's interesting that we did the hips there because I remember whenever I did it, it's like it goes to the back and then you dip it down. So it could have just been the dance practice I looked at, not sure. This part, D. It's a lot of them were kind of hunching over it for doing this. That's a preference thing because even ATEEZ they were also different doing that part, so I think that's fine. Right here, he is he's stiffening up his biceps a lot here, really tensing them, and so that's why he has a restriction of movement here. It's supposed to be very, very like full of energy, with the head usage there, bum bum, with the twist of the legs or twist of the feet. So that's why his just feels a little different. And also it's supposed to be, what's it supposed to be? The body roll is not what's supposed to be happening there. It's supposed to be a bounce, bounce. But he's doing body rolls and it's similar to doing this one right here. So I think he got a little bit ahead and he forgot the bounce. Boom, boom, boom. And then it goes right into this part right here. So that's my, in general, note. He dropped his hands. It could just be because he's a feature. That's totally fine. Everyone was really subtle. And everyone was a little different. I think ATEEZ also, I don't think everybody did it the correct way because it was hard to find if it was supposed to be mirrored or if it was supposed to be unison. So that was an ATEEZ thing that I'm going to chalk it up to them for that. Also for this part, it did feel very stifled where we didn't have any build of the energy on that bass. Boom, 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 boom. Once again, though, I think that's an ATEEZ thing. He did a good job there. Boom, boom, boom. Catching that reverb, that triple, boom, boom, boom. Sliding it over. Pirate King. Yeah. That part looks fine. We're building it up. I do think we need to build up the energy just a smidgen more from our stage right. We gonna get it. Get it. Everybody kind of doing their own thing. As long as they match the same level of energy, I think that's totally fine. It kind of felt like we were a little lost there, so I would just say not really look where we need to go. I don't quite know what that was supposed to be choreographically. It escapes me initially, but it did feel like he was a little off or he wasn't in the right spot at the right time. This part right here, yep, and you can also tell right here he was a little bit early, I think because of that mindset shift from being in the spot too late. Building it up, boom, 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 boom. It was supposed to be a lot clearer, but because of what I said, he didn't quite catch it at the time he needed to. Sliding through. With the bounces, look at the spacing gap right here. So I would say they could have refined that by closing that in a little bit more. It would have felt like a circle faster. And it could also be because my guy just got too close to him. So I think he needed to back up just a little bit. And I think it would have really felt a lot nicer. You can also tell when some people are starting to get tired. He's starting to look a little tired because he's not using the bend of the knees nearly as much and he's not investing in the body. So this would kind of be the ideal. You want to still look the exact same in energy in the beginning like you do at the end. That is so much easier said than done, especially with an ATEEZ track. And I would even include psychers. If you're from KQ Entertainment, good freaking luck to you trying to sing this mess live because it is hard with a capital H to do some of their choreography and sing at the same time. Whew, the stamina required is ginormous. having their own moment. They reach up the energy. Notice that some are bringing it up here and some are using the wrist. So that would just need to be a clarification on what comes up. Is it the wrist or is it the actual pull of the middle of the palm coming up? Because those are different. That boom, boom, that was nice. Bleeding it through. That one was a little bit cleaner, but notice it was a bit more muddled in the levels because some people are starting to be tired. So that's why it's really important, and that's what makes it captivating, their routine and their debut track, because it is hard to do the levels and formations asked of them. About, we're about minute 56 and we're about halfway done. ATEEZ tracks, bless it, they're so freaking long, and your body is not stopping moving at all. So 3 and 1, 2, 3, let's go. Come out. Notice he he stepped on the wrong foot to come out. And it also caused the formation to be a little off. So he needs to scoot in just a smidge, and I'm going to chalk it up to how he transitioned out to begin with. So here. There is something I need to look at though, because they are all setting it like this. Hold. Okay, so I went and I needed to do some digging. How they are holding, like how they're stepping back, is not technically correct, because what you're supposed to do is it's technically like a loose first position in when ATEEZ does it. The only reason why I caught that is because I just learned this choreo, and that's something that I audited for myself. It is, however, so much harder to do a vibration technique in a first position like how ATEEZ does it compared to this. Because they have their way with a little bit bigger stance, they're able to do more or use more leverage of the weight of the legs to make this vibration happen. Is it correct? No, it is not technically correct. So what needed to technically happen for this is they need to keep their bodies facing front, because look what's happening. They're all teetering over diagonally versus to the front. And that's how the choreography is supposed to be in the first vibration, because when you're on the side, how all of this is going to register is different. It's more animalistic than GDDD. It doesn't read as much of a crump pocket the way that the original looks. So that's my general note. They did change the choreo here. It's supposed to be in this position. Now, does it look cool? Does it change? Does it change nonetheless? Here's the thing. I would rather them all make that choice than just some of them who can't handle doing the other version. Does that make sense? So I think it's great that they all made the choice together. Doesn't quite bother me as much, but it is something to be aware of. This is technically not the same information as what ATEEZ does. Now that part, some of them, their range of how they hit the head over was a little bit off, or they hit it a little too early. Let me also say this as a side note, when I did learn the choreo, sometimes there's channels that do the mirrored of the dance practices. The channel that did the Pirate King one way back, the audio overlay is off. So when I originally learned it, I hit this, not for 4 counts. 1, D, 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 and 1. That's what it's supposed to be. I learned it as boom, doo, 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 doo. Well, there's like an extra lag, and it's because of the audio overlay. So that's a fun fact too. Be very mindful when you look at mirrored versions that have audio overlay onto the tracks. When you go on YouTube, be very mindful and cross-reference it with the original to make sure the timing is correct, because I learned the hard way and I had to relearn it because the timing was off. And of course we have the visual, but notice the fixed point. He needs to really fix point this arm so we can really see the visual. He does a pretty good job of that. Swinging it through. Right here, the range of this was also a little off. And notice, because they started on one side and they finished on the other side, that's why you have a higher chance of everybody being off. That part here, because he had to rotate a little bit early, but it still didn't match the integrity of that section of boom. It's supposed to be very seamless, and he's supposed to match, whoops. That's what that is. See, I accidentally, goodness gracious. I find new effects every day on this software. But if you notice here, he turned a little bit too early compared to him. If they both turned at the same time, it would have looked a lot cleaner. So that's my general note too. And we can definitely see we got some people off in the back. We got somebody hanging out over here, but we got like nobody over here. So it doesn't feel symmetrical. When you have an even number, the formations are always harder to get everybody on the same page. Yeah, and the head, of course, was a little bit off there. It is slightly polyrhythmic, so it is tricky to get that section. And they also held this and placed this. That part was better. We didn't have like a huge body roll discrepancy happening in the middle like we did the first time. Oh, and they are crossing behind the back. It could have just been who I was watching, I think. Because they probably all like picked somebody, like what I always suggest too, is they probably picked someone and they went off of that, because ATEEZ was not right on this either. They didn't establish what your leg was supposed to be for this part. No, that's dee, and then it did fill a bit place. Click, 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 click. It's supposed to bleed through into the next phrase, so that would be my note there. They did have a bit of a lag that I think we could have filled up a little bit more by keeping this groove going. Yeah, that part is fine. That part was totally fine. I love that part. Yep, just making sure with that formation, your transitions into your columns are very important. You want to make sure the spacing is always in check, especially if you have a mirror. I do like this. This part's really fun. The bleed around, I do feel like you could have committed a little bit more to this side. I think that would have really helped. But honestly, too, it's your own choice. So, not even an issue. Now, look at this formation. This formation is beautiful. Do you see this? It looks really, really nice. There's only one thing. There's always one thing. He needs to scoot up just a smidge. I'm talking about like not even 3 inches, and they're going to be in line with each other. But this is freaking great. Probably one of the best setups that they did. But also, some of them are not locking in that fist next to the hip and pulling that arm up. I think these are all slightly different. You know what I mean? And it could just be because of the actual like arm span, and that's how it comes up. But that's just my general note, like making sure everybody's on the same page of how high that elbow needs to be for each individual person. But I like the commitment of everybody, and that's a very minor thing. This part right here, notice some of them, whenever you mark, your range gets off. That's why I say if everyone's going to mark, you need everybody to make the choice. Or if everyone's going to go full out, everyone has to go full out. If somebody marks it, then it's going to, like I'd already mentioned, affect the range. And what I mean by that is if you watch my guy right here, it looks like he's starting to mark it probably because he's tired. Totally get that. But you notice that some people are still going full, and it's going to make some people are going to rush. When you mark, you tend to finish movements a little bit earlier because you're not going the full span of the movement, and so it doesn't take up as much time, hence why you can rush a little bit more, which is why we always say go full out in the dance studio space, unless you're specifically told to mark, because it's going to affect how you perform on stage when you have adrenaline. So the energy of this here, it is, you know, I like how they fix this formation a little bit, and one of my guys needs to scoot up just a smidge. He needs to scoot up a little bit. So most of it's just going to be a spacing thing. And one of our guys, this is very interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He is so far out. I don't know what's happening over here. I don't know why we have such a huge gap. It could be, I don't know if ATEEZ did that originally. But that is a really big gap, and I do feel like we could have made that a little smaller. And then we fixed it. That's totally fine. That right there, notice that he had a little bit too much legato in his arms. When you do a vibration, like you got to commit to the full body whenever you do it. And he did a very good job getting about 85%. It's not a full 100. I would give it about 85 because his arms were not committed to it the same way. Dipping down, one of our guys, his range, he set up a little too late. So that would just be a timing fix. Bring it back. Yep, and one of them, notice they go, boom, one of them have a little bit more of a legato choice. It could be because they each looked and studied their own person, because ATEEZ, they're susceptible to the exact same things that I'm noticing here. And that's, you know, if anything, they're doing a freaking great job if that is the case. We can go, oh, I love that, boom, drop, drop, really good. Go and finish, boom, and they finish it out. Everybody committed to it. That is an exhausting routine. And they're like, yeah. Fun. Yep, there's my little effects. So in general, I mean, they did a pretty good job for doing this routine because it is very, very tricky to do well. I do know they have a music video version, but you're able to make a lot of changes and you're able to refine it a lot more because you get to have cuts in it. This is a one take, and I prefer to look at one takes because you can really work on chronic things in one takes over really pretty music video versions. But I do know that they are definitely, makes sense why there's so many people that follow them and why they were voted as top choice in the groups. And it made me really happy to take a look at them, and it makes me honestly excited to see what else they have. As I analyze more routines, that means I get to unlock more and more dance covers to take a look at, because I'm not comfortable looking at dance covers if I have not seen or analyzed the choreography myself, because I don't think I'd be as helpful as an analyst personally. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if this is actually helpful, if this is interesting at all, if you want me to do more of these, because I won't do this if people are like, this sucks, why are you wasting your time doing this? You're not helping them at all, blah blah blah. If it's really that way, just let me know and I won't, and I'll just stick to doing dance practices with the actual artist. That is totally fine. This was really fun for me because it actually felt like I was in the dance studio myself giving feedback, which is kind of cool. But also I do know that it's a lot of information and a lot of feedback to give. I mean, we're looking at a 30-minute version of that. They did a phenomenal job. They really did. And whenever you work through a choreography like this one, where even the dancers at the time or performers at the time were not truly in sync either, those are a lot harder to get your dance cover feeling like you did a good job, because you're not really going to match how they do it, because they're doing it in a way where it's a bit unrefined. And I know ATEEZ would do this dance different now in comparison to way back in the day. Just like 4x4, they probably would definitely do it a little different, and I think that's absolutely fine, and we find beauty in that. Once again, I am Jess. If you want to see more content in general, more analysis, just regular K-pop analysis or dance content analysis, I have that all over Patreon and YouTube. Patreon's got everything early release like this one. And as I move forward, I'm going to be taking a look at other cover groups, and it's going to be really enjoyable to see just the world perspective of how they choose to go about these groups. So once again, I am Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!